So in this video, we will be taking a closer look into what caused Nicola Bulley's disappearance. We will also hear from Nicola's parents, who described their interactions and last conversations with Nicola, which took place just hours before she went missing. Firstly, however, I want to concentrate on what exactly transpired concerning the search effort during the first 48 hours of her disappearance. According to police, her mobile phone was found on a bench near to where she was last seen. Her dog, Springer Spaniel Willow, was found loose between the river and bench. Kev said the team was contacted at around midday on Friday, and he was at the search site within an hour. They didn't leave until 8 PM that night. He said, quote, "We probably searched a mile north upstream, and then we probably searched 3 miles downstream. We covered quite a bit." Let's now take a look at another article which describes in some more detail the extensive search efforts which transpired during the first 48 hours of Nicola Bulley's disappearance. It states the following here. A major search operation has been launched after a woman vanished while walking her dog along a river path. Nicola Bulley, 45, was last seen on Friday morning at 9:15 AM on a footpath in the town of Wyre, Lancashire. Extensive searches for her have been taking place over the weekend. Police dive teams, fire service drones, search dogs, helicopters and mountain service rescue volunteers have all been deployed to the area. Police say they are keeping an open mind about where Miss Bulley may be, and a team of detectives are also investigating the circumstances surrounding her disappearance and following a number of lines of inquiry. They are also supporting Miss Bulley's family and remain in close contact with them. Bowland Pennine Mountain Rescue Team said 25 volunteers contributed to the search over an 8-hour period on Saturday. So that's important to remember here, an 8-hour period. 25 volunteers from Mountain Rescue were there just the day after Nicola Bulley disappeared. Let's just continue here. They were joined by Northwest Ambulance Service, Lancashire Police, the Police Dive Team, Lancashire Fire and Rescue, National Police Air Service Helicopter, a LFRS search dog and an LFRS drone. Miss Bulley, who is described as white, 5'3" tall with light brown shoulder length hair, was last seen walking her dog before going missing. The dog has since been found close to where it is believed Miss Bulley was last seen. Okay, let's just cut in here very briefly. So interestingly, during that last sentence that I read out to you, the dog has since been found close to where it is believed Miss Bulley was last seen. Now, as I covered extensively in yesterday's video, for the first 7 or 8 days of the search for Nicola Bulley, it was widely reported that she was last seen by an eyewitness in the area of the towpath or footpath location, not the upper field. This changes drastically from February the 3rd onwards, but for the first 6 or 7 days of this search, Nicola Bulley was widely believed to have been seen in the location of the towpath. And this is backed up and I guess echoed in some way in this newspaper article here. The dog has since been found close to where it is believed Miss Bulley was last seen, but we know that that changes, as I've said, from February the 3rd onwards. It then moves to Nicola Bulley last being seen by a man with a white dog, a gentleman who is around 70 years old, and it was around 9:10 AM approximately that they believe that this eyewitness account actually took place. But to summarise these first 2 articles, I believe it's really important to try and establish what searches took place during the earliest stages of this investigation. It's okay to have theories and speculate and look at possibilities and different ideas of what could have happened to Nicola Bulley, but we really need to establish what took place during the first 48-hour period and how that relates to where the items are discovered on the bench and what that location can tell us. Now, we know that the bench location is close to the river. We know that the edge of that river is incredibly shallow. But what is also important to take a look at here is the area after the weir, because a lot of people will say, well, maybe, just maybe, she entered the water by the bench and she managed to make it to the weir location. Obviously, it gets a little bit deeper there. Maybe that is how her body has been missed. But take a look at the weir location. Just after this point, again, it gets incredibly shallow. rocks sticking out of the water. There's clearly shallow areas here. I don't believe a body would have passed along this area. I think it would have got stuck on the rocks, potentially. And bearing in mind, we've got people, searchers, divers, helicopters, drones, all involved in the first 48 hours of Nicola Bulley's disappearance. Even on the first night, as I read out to you in that first article, there were a number of people in the water that very same day, not just searching upstream, but searching downstream. 3 miles were covered downstream during the first day of her disappearance. That is incredibly important to remember. One aspect of this case which puzzles me greatly is the fact that I'm trying my hardest to put myself in the position of the searchers for one moment. They have the items by the bench. Let's just try and work out the thought process of what takes place when they get there. They see these items, they've got the dog running between the bench and the gate, they've got a harness, they have Nicola Bulley's phone, and then they have this stretch of water, they have the river. The last known location at this point in time, according to the police, is on the towpath, not the upper field. Let's remember that. When they get there, when they do their initial inquiries, they believe the last person to see Nicola was on the towpath. The water is incredibly shallow, just below the bench. They have a number of divers who enter the water just a few hours after Nicola Bulley just vanishes. A number of divers enter that water. They search not only upstream but 3 miles downstream. They don't find anything. They don't find a body. They don't find anything. Surely the next line of inquiry would have to be, well, maybe she's left the riverside area. She's been seen on the towpath. That's the last place that she's been seen. We've got an eyewitness here who's walking a Labrador, and he claims that he last saw Nicola on the towpath. Maybe, just maybe, she has left that area. They then realise, hang on a minute, we don't have CCTV either. We've got no CCTV of Nicola on her walk. We've got no CCTV of the entrance from Blackpool Lane. We've got no CCTV of Nicola starting, during or ending her walk. So what do we do here? Do we open ourselves up to the possibility that she has left back down the towpath and possibly crossed the road and followed the river further downstream? But they don't do that, do they? They don't do that at any point in time during this investigation. And that to me is incredibly puzzling. When you get there to the bench, you see the items, the water is incredibly shallow. Surely, even after the first day of searching, it must go off in your mind somewhere that, hang on a minute, she may not have entered the river at this location. We've got a dog here who's running between the bench and the gate, which could suggest that Nicola has somehow left this location. We've got an eyewitness who actually saw Nicola on the towpath. Yet, even during the early stages of this missing person inquiry, the police constantly told the public, we don't believe that Nicola Bulley has left this riverside area. We don't believe that Nicola Bulley has left the riverside location. We believe, sadly, that Nicola Bulley has entered the water. I mean, it isn't really congruent with what they have in front of their own eyes, is it, really, when you look at it? 2 feet deep of water by the bench. I mean, where could she have gone, even in the first few hours, if some tragic accident had befallen Nicola Bulley, and she did fall into the river where her items were located? She would have been found within the first few minutes, probably the first few hours of those police divers being in the water. And even if by some miraculous miracle her body managed to shift from that location and past the weir, it would have then got stuck on the rocks. It becomes shallow again in that location. Yet, time and time again, it was told to the public, she's in the water, we believe she's in the water, she hasn't left the riverside location. And it's really important that we tie this in with yesterday's video, that the first 6 or 7 days of this investigation, they didn't even know about this man on the upper field. They were basing everything on the fact that the last known sighting of Nicola was actually on the towpath itself, not the lower field, not the upper field, not by the bench, but on the towpath. That changed, didn't it? From February the 3rd onwards, it became not so much about the towpath. We don't want to know about the towpath. The towpath is irrelevant. It almost vanishes completely from the timeline, and it all becomes about the upper field. the man with the white fluffy dog. But please bear in mind, during the earliest stages when these newspaper articles were written, when the police came out into the public seeking information, they believed the last person to see Nicola was actually on the towpath. So how could they have been so certain that she did not leave that location? That's really, really incredibly puzzling to me. So now that we are armed with some of the facts regarding the extensive search operation which transpired during the early stages of the missing person inquiry, I mean, for me personally, the chance of this being some kind of accident by the bench area just seems to be incredibly, incredibly unlikely. And that's probably actually an understatement on my behalf here. I cannot see, for the life of me, how she could have fallen into the river by the bench area or even further upstream and not have been discovered during the first 48-hour period, considering the amount of resources which were put into that river during the first 48 hours. So then, quite naturally, that leaves us, doesn't it, with two other possibilities. Either Nicola Bulley entered the river by her own accord, or there is some kind of third-party involvement here. So with that in mind, firstly, let's take a look at the possibility that Nicola Bulley entered the water voluntarily. Maybe she left the riverside location and entered the water further downstream. Now for this, we're going to take a look back at a newspaper article where an interview with Nicola's own parents was conducted, where they discuss Nicola's mood, her general health, and how she appeared during the last conversation that they had with her. Bearing in mind that this took place just the day before Nicola went missing. Missing Nicola Bulley's parents share last conversation and fears someone has got her. Nicola Bulley has been missing from her home in Inskip Lancs since Friday morning when she was last seen walking her dog Willow. Her parents exclusively told the Mirror of their last conversation with her. The devastated parents of missing mum Nicola Bulley have described how she was in, quote, good spirits in the last conversation they shared. Fueling their fears, has somebody got her? Speaking to the Mirror as the operation to find Nicola enters a sixth day, Nicola's parents, Ernest, 73, and Dot, 72, vowed we will never stop looking for her. They said the disappearance of the 45-year-old mum from Inskip, Lancashire was totally out of character. Ernest saying she had no health problems and was in good spirits enjoying her job. Recalling their last conversation, he said, quote, her mind was great. We picked the children up the Thursday before she went missing, as we do every Thursday. We took them home. Nicola had a meeting with her boss in Garstang and she said, can you stay a bit later because I have an important client coming in on Zoom. We said no problem and stayed. She had done her work and she was very upbeat about getting her mortgage sorted. I said we better go now and Nicola came to the front door. I gave her a kiss and told her I loved her, and that was the last conversation I had with her. Nicola dropped her young daughters at school and left the car parked up in St Michael's Village and was last seen walking her dog on a footpath along the River Wyre at around 9:20 AM on Friday before she vanished. A major search involving drones, sniffer dogs, specialist divers and a police helicopter has been unable to turn up any more clues, leaving her parents fearing the worst, especially with no evidence of Nicola having fallen into the river. Ernest said, quote, there was no sign of a slip or falling, so our thought was, has somebody got her? I asked a sergeant from Fleetwood a few days ago, is there any chance of her being taken? And she said, I don't think that's the case. I said, how can you know that? It's such an isolated area. The only way that has happened is if it was someone who knew her. While Nicola's family live in hope of her turning up, Ernest confessed their worst fears. We just dread to think we will never see her again. If the worst came to the worst and she was never found, how will we deal with that for the rest of our lives? But Ernest vowed we will never stop looking for her. The couple, who are joint owners of a freight transport company, have split their time between caring for their grandchildren, Nicola's two young daughters, and looking for their own daughter. Okay, so one point worthy of mention here is that the last time that Nicola saw her parents was the evening before her disappearance. It was on the Thursday. So we're not talking about some sort of, lengthy time period where they haven't seen each other, where Nicola hasn't seen her parents, and they're not really sure, what sort of mood she was in. But quite clearly there, she's described as in good spirits, no health concerns, and the disappearance was totally out of character. These are the words of her parents. So that then makes me question the struggles concerning Nicola Bulley, the widely reported issues that she was supposedly facing in the weeks and months leading up to her disappearance. Because it's either one of two things here. Either the parents were not aware of these struggles, or the struggles were not actually as bad as they were widely reported. The reason that I say that is because in another interview that I took a look at just recently, the father was basically saying, look, we speak every day on the phone. We're a very, very close-knit family. We speak to each other every single day on the phone. This is a very close family. They know what each other's up to. They're very close. They spend a lot of time with each other. They talk to each other every single day. So it's one or the other here, isn't it? Do we really believe that the parents were completely in the dark about Nicola's personal struggles? Or could it be that the struggles were not actually as bad as widely reported by the media? Very interesting point to consider. Now, some people may say, well, maybe the family were aware of her struggles in detail, but they were simply being optimistic. But to that I would say, well, why would you go into so much detail? Why would you be using phrases such as, the disappearance is totally out of character, she had no health issues? I mean, I don't even know why that would be relevant. If she did indeed have some, why even mention that? And then say that she was in good spirits. I mean, surely if you were aware of some sort of background issues or background complications in the life of Nicola Bulley, you would say something like, yeah, well, she was fine. The last time I saw her, she was okay. Yeah, she was fine. But they do seem to go into some level of detail here. So to me, I would say that they are most likely unaware of Nicola Bulley's struggles. So then that leads to the question, doesn't it? Who exactly was aware of Nicola Bulley's personal struggles? Clearly, the authorities who visited her house in January, they were aware, and also her partner. But what concerns me greatly about this case is that when this sort of information is released out into the public domain regarding Nicola's state of mind and past potential troubles, shall we say, the issues caused by the menopause, the possible problem with drinking or alcohol, it tarnishes the entire investigation, as far as I'm concerned, particularly from the public's point of view. The perception of an individual can change in the click of a finger. I'll be completely honest and say that I am also guilty of looking at this on the face of things and thinking, well, hang on a minute. Well, maybe, just maybe, Nicola Bulley entered the water voluntarily. Maybe this person was struggling and she just entered the water on her own accord. Maybe this was her own decision here. But do we really know enough about the individual concerned to say that this is a distinct possibility? We've heard from her family who describe her as in good spirits, someone who had no health issues, someone whose disappearance was completely, totally out of character. Someone on the day of her disappearance is messaging a friend or organising a play date for her children just moments before she seemingly vanishes. A lady who, during her very disappearance, is still connected to her work's conference call. A lady who emails her boss just minutes before her disappearance. Someone who appears present in her own life. Present and looking forward to the future. I mean, ultimately, let's be honest with each other here. Let's be frank. Let's be straightforward. Let's cut to the chase for one moment. Not one of us can say for certain what Nicola Bulley's state of mind was on January the 27th. We can only take a look at the information and the evidence which is provided to us. But to buy in too much to the media narrative of this person was struggling, this person had it hard, this person was struggling with alcohol issues, menopause problems, medication issues, whatever. I just think it's a little bit too narrow-minded, particularly when we do not have a cause of death at this point in time concerning Nicola Bulley. So that leaves us, doesn't it, with the third theory, the third option in all of this. and that is the potential of third-party involvement. Now, this particular topic I plan on covering in a lot more detail in future videos, but I'm just going to run through quite a few things that have stuck out to me when looking at the location where Nicola Bulley's body was discovered. But firstly, I think we need to pay attention again to the start of the investigation. The fact that this body, if it has been in the water for 23 days before its discovery, how has that body been missed? Particularly with the fact that on the first day of her disappearance, search teams searched 3 miles downstream. And I truly believe that before we start getting into the realms of speculation and different theories on what may have happened to Nicola Bulley, it's really important, as I stressed early on in this video, to take a look back and work out factually what has taken place concerning the search. What areas have been searched? Could this have been missed? Is that a possibility? But the more and more that I look into this case, the more and more confused I seem to get. How have they missed this body for 23 days? We know that they searched in the right area. They've been searching in the right area since the first few hours of her disappearance. They even went 2 miles past the location where her body was discovered on day 1. Not even the second day, but on the very day she went missing. They went 2 miles past where her body was ultimately discovered. And I think it's important that we're not blind to the facts here. What is actually staring us in our face? The fact that this location where the body was discovered is very close to a road. It's also very close to a lay-by. Now, if you were going to move a body and put a body into the river, let's just say for argument's sake, it's a perfect prime spot, isn't it? We can't be blind to that. I mean, I'm not saying that that's exactly what's happened here, but we can't be blind to the facts of this case, of where the body is discovered and what lays around that location. Anyway, as I say, this is something I'm going to be covering in a lot more detail in future videos, so do stick around for those. If you found this video particularly interesting or helpful, please do give the video a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel. And as always, many thanks for joining me for this one. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.